What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're going over our 2026 running backs today. We're going to be looking at basically the top guys of the class. There's a lot of movement to be had in this class, though, because, not a ton of guys broke out. Some guys are sitting behind other guys on the depth chart. So tons of movement. We're going to be looking at the top guys of the class right now. And then we're going to be diving into the watch list. Hey, who are some guys you should be keeping an eye on as we kind of head into that next year's class? I know everybody's talking about the 25 class, but it's never too early to start diving in 2026 guys. And also, if you play Devy, kind of got to draft these guys. So let's get started. Who's our consensus number one in the Devy format, but also here at the channel? CJ Baxter, Texas running back, 6'1", 218. He is our consensus one. There's a few reasons why, right? So when we're looking at his stats last year, obviously got on the field a little bit more because Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL, but 138 attempts, 659 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Did have 25 targets. Not a ton of production on that side, but the things that CJ does well, and he was a pretty consensus running back one coming out last year. Him, Justice Haynes, and Ruben Owens from Texas A&M kind of battled back and forth on the recruiting circle. But elite lateral agility at the line of scrimmage, like his ability to kind of, get in and out of creases. I think he does a good job of jump cuts, getting into space. He does that really well. Good size too. So when you're looking from an NFL standpoint, has that. And vision. Like, I think those are the things that he does well, especially with that lateral agility. He can find a crease and he hits it whole and he's gone, right? Those are the things that you like to see. Now, areas of improvement, areas that he's got to get a little bit better at. He's going to go in the SEC now, right? So we're not talking Big 12 anymore. What does that look like moving forward? Pass blocking. A lot of these guys got to work on their pass blocking, but just one area of his game that he's got to get a little bit better at. And then receiving ability. He has the ability, but you'd like to see that production, right? Let's see a little bit more nuanced routes. Let's see kind of just improvement there. Hey, it's not just check downs and swings. Can he kind of get a route tree? Those are the things that you're really looking at with CJ that you'd like to see him improve on. From PFF numbers, what you see there, 70.5 run grade is not bad for a true freshman. Yards after contact, that's that lateral agility, make guys miss, all those things. 29 missed tackles force is pretty good for the attempts that he had. 10 plus runs, explosive run rates, 18, which is good. Elusive rating, pass blocking is a little bit down. Receiving grade at 73.9 is not terrible, but we want to see him develop that route tree. But moving forward, it looks like him. I think Jaden Blue is an underrated prospect at Texas too. I think that he's going to get a little bit of run, but him and CJ Baxter are really that 1-2 punch, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how he develops in the SEC. Now, after one, your board can look completely different from others, right? Like now at 2, we have Justice Haynes. Now, Christian Williams is not like Justin Haynes, so I'm throwing him under the bus. Now, we still like him based on potential, but it would not shock me to see you have 6 different guys at number 2 right now. That is just the way the board is looking right now. Now, Justice Haynes is good to me. Like when you watch him play, 5'11", 205. And I got to watch him play in person last year in the Rose Bowl. Not very much, but I was glad he wasn't out there because as an opposing fan, I was like, man, that kid is freaking fast and he could do some damage against this Michigan defense. Just didn't have the attempts, right? When you look at the numbers last year, 25 attempts. That was it. And obviously at Alabama, you're behind a lot of guys, but he just didn't get that opportunity behind Jace McClellan. He had 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the things that stand out to me about Justice Haynes, vision, again, a one-cut ability, one cut gone, and he is explosive. Like when you're talking about his ability inside the tackles, he's explosive. Now, the one area that, he might need to get better at is top end speed. Now, that 4.66 40 was in high school. So obviously he's going to improve that. But that was a recorded 40 time for what I found when they talked about it on his 247 recruiting sports, that he did run that 40. So that top end speed isn't there. I know that explosives is there. That one cut ability is there. But is that top end speed there, right? Pass blocking are well. And in receiving production, you didn't have anything, right? No targets, no catches. That's pretty relevant in a offense at Alabama with Nick Saban. Now with DeBoer there, will he get those opportunities? You hope that he gets those opportunities, but make no mistake about it. This ranking is based on expectation and upside, right? So that's why if you don't have him at 2, I completely understand. When you're looking at his run grade, 80.3 is fine, but again, limited attempts here, elusiveness. 10 plus explosive runs is 6 though on 25 attempts, which is not bad, right? When you extrapolate that out, if he had a full year, you could be looking at one of the most explosive players in college football. That's his upside, but his downside is you got to get on the field, right? And there's no guarantee he's going to get on the field this year either. He's definitely there. He's going to compete. They've talked about him competing there. But Jam Miller is someone that I like. Kevin Riley's coming up. There's guys that are in that room. So Justice Haynes really got to step up there, or next year we could see him dip a little bit. Now, at 3, we got big boy Caleb Jackson from LSU, 6 foot 225, one of my personal favorites. I talked about him a little bit last year heading into the season. And what he did at LSU this year, this last year, 25 attempts, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, hard to get on the field, but I know in the spring they have talked about him absolutely tearing it up, and LSU loves Caleb Jackson. So you could see him kind of solidify himself as that running back one of this depth chart, and that's really what you're looking for. Not a ton of guys in this class is really tackled that running back one, even CJ Baxter, right? With Jaden Blue being there. So these guys that you're looking at, you're like, hey, can you assume command of that running back one? Caleb has the opportunity to do that. Play strength and size, he's got that, right? Burst at line of scrimmage for his size. Like, that's the one thing. When he has that ability to kind of get up and go, he can move. Once he gets that ball moving, his big size going, it's hard to take him down. Very good north-south one-cut ability. Does that very, very well. And he is a north-south runner, right? So when we're talking about lateral agility, doesn't have that as much. That's why I put that as areas of improvement. Crowded running back room too. Like, he could take over, but again, just like Justice Haynes, will he take over? That's always the question there. And that receiving profile, I do think that, the one thing when you're looking at NFL fantasy, what's the cheat code for running back ones? Receiving profile, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, all those guys that finish in that category, even Rachaad White, they have that receiving profile. So if you're projecting for that, if you're playing Devy, you're looking at that, you got to look at that receiving profile. And if you feel like that he doesn't have it, you're going to have to knock him down a little bit, right? You're going to have to, draft somebody else. Now, just from a PFF standpoint, grades, okay. I mean, his elusive rate is 109.3. The big thing is he only had 25 attempts, right? So if we're talking about, 25 attempts, that's not great. But did have the receptions and the yards and everything there. He did have 11 missed tackles for us in those 25 attempts. That's something to kind of note, right? Now, number 4 is one of my guys that I think is getting slept on a little bit out there. Minnesota running back Darius Taylor had a fantastic start to the year. Then he got injured and it kind of went away. But 5'11", 210, very good size. 138 attempts and 799 yards. And that really came in the first 5 games of the year. After that, he got injured, didn't really get back on the field until the end of the year. But hey, he was there. He showed that 3-down talent, and he has that. 11 catches, 92 yards, but he is that. He showed that in high school. So that's where I can kind of say that, hey, yeah, he has that receiving profile. Minnesota's offense isn't really predicated on that receiving profile. He's going to get a lot of carries, not necessarily targets, but he has that ability, and we've seen that. So we're talking about PPR upside. We like that. Very good, solid frame. The contact balance is probably the number one thing that stood out to me about Darius Taylor going through his film. Very, very good contact balance. Areas of improvement, you got to stay uninjured, right? And that's not just saying he's injury prone, because we're not going to say that here, but got to stay on the field next year. Poor offensive line. Minnesota usually has a pretty good offensive line, but going through the numbers and just looking at the PFF grades, they struggled, right? So will he struggle too if they have that bad offensive line out there? And then, receiving profile just from a production standpoint, right? So let me see some more production. He can do it in high school. We saw the 3-down talent ability. Now go show me. Give me that receiving production. And I think Darius Taylor's getting slept on. I really do think Darius could really challenge for running back one if he comes out and has 1,000 yards this year. Like, he has that profile that you like. Run grade, 84.8 was really good. Yards after contact, 519. 35 missed tackles force. That is really where that contact balance comes into play. And that's what he has. 23 10-plus explosive runs on just 138 attempts. He was one of the best backs last year when he first was healthy at the beginning of the year. And then he kind of he got hurt. People just forgot about him. But Darius Taylor is going to get the volume. He's going to see the production. And if he improves that receiving profile, I think a lot of guys are kind of sleeping on him right now. And I think he's a value out there in some of those leagues that you're playing in. Now, at number 5, again, upside play here. Cameron Seldon, Tennessee running back, 6'2", 222. Really what you're looking at is, like, can he kind of be that next guy, right? NFL-ready frame. At that size, you love that. He has pretty quick feet at the line of scrimmage. Didn't see him get a ton of usage, 25 attempts, 106 yards. But based on camp hype, based on everything we're hearing out of Tennessee, could be that next guy, right? Could be that next guy on that depth chart. to really step up. The issue with Tennessee is, Hupel likes to use a running back by committee approach, and they do have very solid running backs in the room. And that offense isn't really predicated on running back success, right? But he's going to see targets. He's going to see kind of, some volume. He's going to get out there, and he could be their goal line guy. So we could see those touchdowns there. But this is really an upside play. I don't have a ton of confidence in Selden being at 5, but if he gets the volume and opportunity, he could definitely bounce out and solidify his rank in the top 5. Areas of improvement: he had shoulder surgery, so he's coming back from that. The split volume is always going to be a thing. So just like, when we think of Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, these guys that have played there, will he be able to overcome that, right? And get drafted as a day 2 guy, which is what you're looking for. And then he doesn't really have that long speed. And again, long speed's a little overrated, but we'd like to see him be able to get that second level and burn by guys. And I didn't see that a lot. He looks for a lot of contact because that's just kind of the runner he is, but you want to see him improve that a little bit. And in receiving profile, no targets, no receptions. Those are the things that you got to look there. Again, not a ton of usage, so the PFF numbers aren't going to be amazing. Run grade 68.4 yards after contact. But again, just like when we talked about Justice Haynes, Cameron Selden is could he pop off? Could he break out, right? And based on potential, he could be one of those guys there. Now, the next guy I had to talk about because I do think he is a little slept on right now. Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, 6 foot, 200 pounds. And, again, Christian, who does work on here on the channel, is one of the better running back, kind of gurus in scouting. He loves this kid, Jeremiah Love. And so when he likes a kid, I got to go ahead and look and see what I saw. And what I saw for Jeremiah Love, NFL speed. He's got that. Mark that down. This dude is a home run threat every time he touches the football. 71 attempts, 385 yards, and a touchdown last year. But, man, he is out there. And when you want to have some fun, you're bored, you want to jump on some huddle tape, you go watch his high school tape, dude was unstoppable. Like, you saw that NFL speed and that home run threat every single time he touched the football. And his change of direction, really good, especially in the open field. Really good open field guy, making guys miss. Now, size, again, sub 200. How concerned are we there? I think if he's at 210, we'd be pretty excited about that. He did gain some weight to get up to 200 pounds this last offseason. So you're excited there. But again, sub 200, when you're looking at historical numbers for fantasy production in the NFL, not great. Crowded running back room as well, right? So definitely crowded. Kedron Young is coming up. Some of the other guys in that room, when you're looking at that room, who's going to overcome that? Who's the volume guy? And I do think they'll split a little bit of a work, but I think Love could be the big play guy. And on a team that has playoff aspirations, they're going to probably use Love a little bit more than people think. And then carrying the load too. He had 71 attempts. That's great. But even in high school, didn't have a ton. I think 129 attempts was his most, if I remember right when I was going through the research for this. So not a ton of attempts for him. Carrying that load, can he do that? And will he kind of be able to do that? And that's where you get the size concern. Like, hey, maybe he can't. Maybe he's more of that change of pace back. But he has a receiving profile. You like that. 84 yards and a touchdown. He can do that. So maybe this is more of an asset that you're looking at as being that change of pace guy, big play guy. Now, PFF, run grade was great. Yards, after contact, 278 is good. 10 plus, 11 plus 10 plus yards. Explosive run rate, which is great. Elusive rating, 117.3. You like that. That's his elusiveness, his open field elusiveness, all of those things. Pass blocking, got to work on that, especially if you want him to be a 3-down guy or just a pass catching back, right? Get on the field, pass block. Now, when you're looking at just the watch list, there's a ton of guys on here. So just to be aware, some of these guys might pop off. Some of them might. So there's probably some guys that you like that aren't even on this list. I just had to kind of cut it off. Roderick Robinson, the second from Georgia. Abu Sama. I like Sama. I think from Iowa State, he's one of those guys that getting a little slept on too. Quentin Joyner, not a lot of Devy guys like him, but he has the opportunity to get out there. I know Jacovius Marks is over there in USC now, but Joyner could get on the field. Ruben Owens is also out there. New offense and Elko's offense. How is he going to do at Texas A&M? He was a top 3 guy last year. I had my concerns. I was pretty low on him. Actually, his dad yelled at me on the YouTube channel over my breakdown of him. But, moving forward, will he pop back up in the top 5? Kedrick Criscano from Arizona. Tran Webb could actually be a guy at Florida now, right? When they lose ETN, looking at, who's out there, Montrell Johnson. Webb could be that big play guy. They like him a lot. And then Richard Young at Alabama as well, with Justice Haynes, Jam Miller, Kevin Riley, those guys. Who's going to pop off? Richard Young was a top 10 back last year in the last year's class. So these are all guys out there that definitely definitely could make an impact. And other guys on the list. This running back class is wide open, similar to the quarterback class. There's a lot of guys that definitely could take that next step. But right now, those are our consensus rankings. Joe, dive through it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think those, what's egregious to you? Who should be a little higher? Who should be a little lower? Who's not on the list that you think we should take a look at? As always, we appreciate you guys here at the channel. Hit that like button. I'll catch you on the next video.